Just over a week away from opening day, and nobody better to join us to talk all things college baseball than our good friend Ben Upton, the co-founder, the co-owner, the co-host of 11.7, the college baseball podcast. And for my money, guys, the best college baseball podcast on the internet. Ben, what's going on, my man? Great to chat with you once again.
Chris, I know we've been planning this for a few weeks now. The season almost snuck up on us a couple weeks ago when we were planning this. We're like, wait, we got a few more weeks left. Let's do it close to the year. But man, this is one of my favorite shows to come on. Between this and then there's a TCU podcast I love coming on. I don't I don't usually have a ton of time to do podcasts, but I always make time for you. Like this is always a good time chatting it up. And this year we can make more than just South Carolina fans mad. We got a whole SEC to make mad. So let's do it.
Ben, first thing before we dive into everything, we're going to make plenty of teams mad. Tell folks what you guys have going on with 11.7, 11point7.com, because again, there's a lot for you to plug and promote. You've got the podcast, you've got the website, you've got the written content, you've got social media. You've also got a Pick'em, you've got a Survivor, you got a Patreon. So I want to give you an opportunity, my man. Take a moment, let folks know who are obviously tuning in. They're fans of SEC baseball, fans of college baseball. Maybe they're looking for a community to get involved with. 11.7 is a great one. So just let folks know all the exciting things that you guys have going on going into the season.
Right on, man. I always appreciate the plug. Yeah, so we do things a little bit different. 11.7. It's very similar to this. It's unfiltered, kind of locker room talk, former players just chatting it up. But we do try to provide more value to college baseball fans. And at the end of the day, we want to bring in more college baseball fans because the sport's so exciting. It really just takes one or two games for someone to fall in love with the sport. So we do it by, promoting gambling, promoting these pick 'em contests that we have through our Patreon, and also just having a website that has a little bit of everything. We got blogs, we got live RPI. We're going to have a live scoreboard this year that we're about to release. It's already built. Shout out to Dimitri. He's the wizard with that. So it'll be like kind of a one-stop place to get your college baseball content. Now, we're not scouts. Like the guys at D1 Baseball do a fabulous job on the scouting side of things. We get a lot of our information and like a lot of our opinions through, reading their content. We're a little bit more easygoing and we'll slip in a cuss word here and there. So it's a different perspective, but we try to add on every single year. Last year was a huge success, so we're just trying to add on to make it a little bit better this year.
And Ben, you guys are crushing. So with that being said, let's get into it. Ben, what's the college baseball storyline that we're not talking about enough going into opening day?
Yeah. Florida State is coming off of, longtime head coach, rest his soul, Mike Martin, just passed away last week. And people are forgetting about, I think they made something like 30 regional appearances in 31 years. It might go bigger than that. But, Florida State's always in the top 5 or 6 in recruiting. Like they're up there with the LSUs and the Tennessees, the South Carolinas every single year. And they just happened to have a bad year last year. A lot of young guys, brand new coach. This year they're going to be much better. So if you are like dabbling in the gambling game, or if you want to take a long shot to win the College World Series, there's something like 150 to 1, which they probably won't win it, but they do have that storyline of a longtime coach passing away. They have something to fight for. That's kind of where my head's at right now.
So, Ben, with that being said, let's get into this. 11point7.com is where you can find it. You guys did a show about it. You dropped, maybe against your better judgment, your field of 64 projections. I saw you going back and forth on social media. Should I do it? Should I not? I talked to Dimitri about it. He said, you texted him, I'm going to do it, man. I'm going to drop the field of 64 projections. So I took a look. My immediate question for you, where are the Florida Gators and why are they going to Bloomington? Like, why are you down on Florida? It seems like everybody thinks it's a surefire thing. Jack Caglione, you get the Alabama transfer, Colby Shelton, power on power on power in the lineup. It's Kevin Sullivan, man. They're going to have 15 guys throwing 98. You're not buying the Gators. Why?
Well, I mean, somebody has to come out and make a huge, bold prediction that's not based off of Baseball America or D1 Baseball or any other of the 25 college baseball polls out there. This is more of just a gut shot. Like, obviously, they're right up there with Wake Forest when it comes to talent, pro prospects, everything. But, like, let's rewind to last year when nobody was talking about the Florida Gators. I come out with my preseason field of 64, and I have the Florida Gators as a #1 overall seed. And people were like, I had to fight off 13 SEC fan bases plus Florida State and Miami. Everybody's calling me crazy. And like, yeah, it was a little crazy for doing that last year. So I have a gut feeling the Florida Gators either tend to super overperform or super just underperform. Like they have let their fan base down probably 4 of the last 6 years. So it's like, all right, I'll play off that narrative. I'll be the guy that says Florida is gonna have a stinker of a season. Not a stinker. They're a 2 seed, and I don't know. Like, it's not that bad, but I think they're gonna underperform this year. And I'll say it, whatever.
And Ben, on that note, you mentioned D1Baseball.com. Those guys do a great job. 6 of the top 9 in their preseason top 25 from the SEC, 8 of the top 25 total. Your thoughts on their preseason top 25 as a whole? I mean, again, that's the one I think most, if not all of us, go by is D1Baseball.com. Did you think they got it right, overrated, underrated? I'm sure there's some SEC teams in there that both fall in that category, but your thoughts on the D1 Baseball top 25?
I had no problems with it. Like going into the year, based off of the stuff that we do know, I think they got it right. I mean, it was cool to see them mix in a few mid majors in there that I think are going to be the top mid majors. Sometimes they don't do that for preseason polls. They'll kind of leave those guys off and make them earn their way on. But you know, as a whole, like I think they got the top 8 SEC teams in there. I really do. And college baseball, like I tell this all the time on the podcast, but college baseball is a sport where you can't go off of last year's numbers. I mean, you can, but you can't, right? Like players develop over the summer. Like Chris, you're a former baseball player. You know, like some guys take a huge step after their sophomore year to their junior year, or their junior year to their senior year. And then on top of that, like there's always about 8 to 10 impact freshmen. Like Ethan Petrie is a guy last year at South Carolina. Yeah, he was a little known. Like people knew he was going to be good. Nobody knew he was going to hit 25 homers. So there's a lot of unknown and there's a lot of year to year discrepancies versus a college football or college basketball where you know if a guy's going to average 12 and 10 or you know if a guy's going to throw for 2,000 yards. It's just a different sport, which makes it more fun.
Ben, speaking of pissing fan bases off, I'm going to put you on the spot here. Who do you buy in more? And you can't say you don't give me a cop out answer. Who do you buy
I
in
never will.
more? Who do
I'll
you
never
buy
give
in
you a
more?
cop out.
Charlie Condon or Ethan Petrie?
Personally, I like Condon. Or is it Condon, Condone, whatever you
I,
want to say?
maybe I'm being a little too fancy with it. Maybe
Yeah,
he's just a humble
the
Georgia boy. Maybe it's Condon. I don't know.
yeah, Condon, Condone. No, I do like him better. Listen, Ethan Petrie's a stud, and this is Bonds versus Sosa, McGuire, Sosa, whatever you want to say. Like both of these guys are going to be Major League Baseball players, which is, in the grand scheme of things, great. Great for both of them. Great for their bank accounts. Personally, I think what Condon did last year in a lineup that had way less protection than what Petrie did, and a much bigger field. Like it's harder to hit home runs in Athens than it is in Columbia. The ball just flies different. So I think like honestly, like Charlie Condon has a much better chance of winning the Golden Spikes this year, just kind of being the dude on the team versus Petrie, who's going to have a ton of help around him. And I mean, there's really no right or wrong answer, but if I had to choose, give me the kid named Charlie. I wrote it. I wrote it up in my. This is a little side story. Just trust me, it'll get funny. The For the Golden Spikes futures that were released through, I think it was FanDuel at the time. You know, I did a write up of the top 20 guys that
I
they
was going to say,
posted.
how did it feel to know that FanDuel was basically tracking your every move and
Yeah, that
updating
was.
odds because they were like, oh, we obviously
I,
forgot a couple of guys.
I felt pretty important for the first time in 8 or 9 months. But the cool thing was, or not, sorry, not the cool thing, but the funny thing is, I wrote in there, I was like, Charlie Condon can definitely win the Golden Spikes. Like he's got the potential, but are we really going to give the Golden Spikes to a kid named Charlie? And then I was like, Charlie's just not really a Golden Spikes caliber name. And then I put a couple periods and I said, wait, hold on. We did give it to a guy named Adley, so I guess Charlie could win it. Just a little, play on names there, girl names.
So I know that obviously, Ben, you're big into gambling. Have you thrown some coin down on a couple of guys for the Golden Spikes? And if so, who are your favorites to win it?
Not on the Golden Spikes yet. I did play some futures, some long shots there. But if I were to actually I will make some bets. The market's changing like crazy right now. Like you can get guys that were 30 to 1 at 100 to 1 now.
And you can
Just
write an
based
article about how this guy's a sleeper or this guy's overrated. We could
it
listen, we could change the odds overnight. If you got somebody you
100%.
like, let's put out a couple hit pieces. We'll say this guy's no good. He's this, he's that. We'll get him real cheap. We'll get him real cheap. High
100%.
value.
Yeah, if there's anybody out there that wants to get behind this, let's just talk a lot of crap about Tommy White because I love Tommy White to win the Golden Spikes. And if we all just put out articles saying how he's not going to win it, maybe he'll
Can't hit
go
a
from
curveball.
15 to 1. Yeah, he can't hit a curveball, he can't pull the ball for a
Yeah.
home run.
Yeah.
All his home runs are to right center. Yeah, let's try to get Tommy White because I really think he's got everything, like the whole package to win it. He had 100 RBIs and he missed about 10 games. It was crazy what he did last year. And he's got the flair, he's got the look. He's done it the last 2 years, so he's got the pedigree. Like Tommy White's a guy that I would highly consider at 15. You can get him at like 15 to 1 or 20 to 1, depending on where you bet at. I like him a lot as not a heavy favorite. But obviously, like Jack Caglione's going into the season, like 100% deserves to be the heavy favorite. Like he just does things that other guys can't do.
Speaking of LSU and Tommy White, Ben, let's talk the top 5 in the D1Baseball.com preseason top 25. Of course, Wake Forest #1. We mentioned Florida at 2. Arkansas's at 3 and LSU is at 4. Speaking specifically on the Bayou Bengals, they got all the talent in the world, right? But you lose Paul Skeens, you lose Dylan Cruz. Can LSU go back to back? I mean, do we think they have enough to do it? I mean, it's going to be a different task this year, but I've been told by folks down there at LSU they got a lefty throwing 100. So I mean, LSU's obviously one of those programs you don't rebuild, you reload. So I mean, realistically, do you think LSU can do it? And if so, how different of a path will it be? Because last year it just felt like before the season they were the pick, and it ended up being right. This year's a little bit different for them.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, sure, absolutely, they can win it back to back. Like they have the talent and they have the potential. Now, we haven't seen a team go back to back since what, 06, 07 with Oregon State.
South
Uh,
Carolina, 10 and 11.
oh, you're right. How did I forget that, Chris?
Jackie Bradley
They should
Jr.
have
and the
won it.
boys.
They
Yeah,
should have won it 3 years in a row
could
if
have.
Arizona didn't come in. Wow, I'm so sorry. That was a brain fart out of nowhere. But I mean, LSU would not have won the national championship last year without Paul Skeens and without Dylan Cruz. Now, this is kind of like the Moneyball perspective, the Billy Bean of like, how can we replace 130 innings with 198 strikeouts and a 500 hitter? Like, how do we replace that? Sure, like their recruiting class was great. Like, I think they got the #1 or #2 overall high school pitcher. I think his name's Cameron Johnson, lefty. He does throw hard and he will pitch a lot of innings for him, but he's not a Paul, like, you're not Paul Skeens yet, right? Like you can't rely on this guy to go 8, 9 innings, once a week. So they'll have to do it a different way. I think the pitching staff might be better as a whole this year, right? But like, can they win the important games like the double elimination in Omaha or the best 2 out of 3 super regionals? It's just going to be tough because they basically had an automatic win every Friday last year, and that makes your life just so much easier. You have your whole pitching staff for Saturday and Sunday the whole season. That's the big difference. But yeah, they could win it back to back. I could see it happening.
Now, you mentioned in your hot takes for the year, Ben, which I don't think this is a hot take. You say Arkansas and Tennessee will be the 2 best SEC teams. I don't think saying Arkansas is going to be one of the best or one of the best in the West is all that hot of a take. I guess my biggest question, Ben, is I've been hearing for years that, every year I feel like we say, well, Dave Van Horn's going to get him one. And he is one of the best in the game. There's no question. But I'm like, at some point, I'm like, maybe he isn't going to get him one. Like, I mean, like, do the baseball gods finally shine on Arkansas? Because it really does make no sense that program hasn't won a national title. And obviously, when you talk about the Hogs, it starts with the pitching, Hagen Smith, that entire bullpen, probably one of the best pitching staffs, if not the best pitching staff in college baseball.
Yeah, they're my favorite pitching staff in college baseball. Look, I might be the biggest fan of Hagen Smith. I think he's one of those guys that's going to be like a Rhett Lauder, Paul Skeens, where in less than 12 months, he'll be in the big leagues. Like he's 98 to 100 from the left side. He's got the look, he's got the athleticism. And last year he did battle injuries. Like that was a big thing for him. But you look like their weekend rotation is loaded. They get the Texas Tech start or Friday night starter
He's
Mason
their
Molina to go.
Sunday guy.
yeah, he's their Sunday guy. And it's like, is he the best Sunday guy in the nation? Probably, right? Like that's how I mean, that's how you have to look at the Hogs. Now, they did lose Peyton Stovall for what, 4 to 6 weeks today. I think he hurt his foot, maybe his somewhere in his leg. But listen, like that's not a big deal. Like Stovall's a baller. Like he's a real dirt bag. Like he's one of those guys that like once he comes back, he'll be 100% ready and full force for SEC play and the conference tournament, regionals, so on and so on. So I don't think it hurts their stock too much. But yeah, I mean, I do like Arkansas a lot. Dave Van Horn definitely deserves a national championship. I don't know what he did in 2018 to deserve that 2 out, 2 strike pop-up foul territory. Arkansas fans are going to hate me for this. I'm already used to it. They tweet at me all the time, but I will bring it back up. I mean, they should have won a national championship in 2018. Absolutely 100%. You ask anybody, yep, it should have happened. They didn't. So, yeah, I mean, he should get one, right? Like either this year, next year. Their recruiting classes have been great. I I personally think they're going to win it all this year. That was my pick. I'm sticking to it.
Arkansas is the pick to win it all. You're going on record
Yeah.
right now. Arkansas is the pick.
Well, yeah. Did you see my data I pulled up? I tweeted this out a couple weeks ago, but you know, 20 and so in 20 oh my God, I'm losing my mind. 2019 the national championship came from Nashville. Vanderbilt won it. It went slightly west to Oxford, or sorry, to Starkville in 2021 because there was no 2020 because of COVID. So 2021, Starkville, a little bit west. In fact, it was like 2 longitude degrees away. And then it went like another 2 longitude degrees away to Oxford, Mississippi. And then it went another 2 longitude degrees away to Baton Rouge, Louisiana. So it's slowly moving west. I said the national championship winner is going to come somewhere between 93 and 95 degrees longitude on the US map. And guess what's like right at 94 and a half? Fayetteville, Arkansas. So it's going to happen. Like it's destiny. We're slowly moving west.
I just
Yeah.
love the lot. Like, there's nobody else in the college baseball world who's going to explain their
Yeah.
national champion pick in that manner. So kudos to you, sir. And the beautiful thing about it, as I know what you're thinking, is either it's going to play out because of latitudes and longitudes and Arkansas is going to win, or it's going to follow the mid-major pattern and a mid-major is going to win it for the first time since
That I
2016.
forgot about that. I do have that theory. Every
No.
8 years, there's a
So,
there's a
so I guess
mid-major
my
that wins it.
question, it's not SEC related, but who would be the mid-major? Do you think it's East Carolina? Is it UC Irvine? Is it Northeastern? I did see a lot of ECU fans, by the way, I think giving either y'all crap or somebody else that basically, I don't think East Carolina fans like being labeled as a mid-major. They don't even want to be labeled as a mid-major, which,
That's
I mean, is kudos to their program because they're that good, I guess. I mean, get Cliff Godwin to Omaha, right? That's got to happen.
right. Yeah, that listen, we get about 500,000 engagements every Sunday night when we put the mid-major power rankings up, and 250,000 of them are either Southern Miss fans or East Carolina fans. Like they just come in floods and they just tweet, 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 tweet. Listen, maybe mid-major is not the right word because baseball wise, like they both invest into college
Power
baseball.
six. Power
Yeah,
six.
but you can't even call it a Power Six anymore because, like, I went and looked at the numbers. The Big Ten spends on average like close to, I think it was like $800,000 more a year on baseball than the next conference, which was the American. And then after that, then it's like the Sun Belt, and then Conference USA, Big West. Like, so when we say mid-major, we mean like the conferences are paying, or generating the revenue or whatever through TV deals, through whatever you want to call it. There really is a difference in college baseball. Like the Big Ten, people always say, talent's not good. They're not a Power Five or whatever you want to call it, but the money's there. So that's kind of where we draw the line is even though East Carolina and Southern Miss, traditional powerhouses in college baseball, they're probably not mid-majors, but, we have to label it based on conferences, and that's how we do it. So non-Power Five, top 25 is what we should call it. But dude, it's so great. It is the best part of Sundays. Just seeing those fans come in. We're not a mid-major. You guys are stupid. This is invalid. I love it. I live for it.
So, Ben, getting back to the SEC, of that next wave in the top 10 of SEC teams, Vandy, Texas A&M, and Tennessee, I see in your hot takes again, you think Tennessee's going to be one of the best. And contrary to what one of our contributors had to say, which I hope people start understanding, there's more than one voice there because, hey, listen, everybody's free to their opinion. We got a contributor that thinks Tennessee's going to be no good. I think Tennessee's going to be very good, and you think Tennessee's going to be very good. I love Tony Vitello. I'm a huge Tony Vitello guy. Now that I'm not just solely a South Carolina entity, I can say that. So, but your thoughts on that next wave? I mean, Vandy, A&M, Tennessee, three teams, obviously with a lot of talent. I think three teams with very different makeups and very different questions coming in the year.
Yeah, the best way to separate those 3 teams is, like, Vanderbilt is gonna be, like, probably like, if you had to go based off of, high votality, I don't know the word, but Vanderbilt's gonna be the most consistent throughout the year. Like, they are a team that's built, like, basically like a professional team, right? Like,
They
Tim
reflect
Corbin
Tim
had
Corbin. They reflect
Yeah,
Corbin.
right. Like, Tim Corbin recruits and breeds these kids to be professionals, and, they play the game the right way. They're probably not gonna beat you 14 to nothing, but, like, they're gonna beat you 5 to nothing, 5 to 1, 6 to 1 every single game, and, like, they're gonna play good, clean baseball. So, not necessarily entertaining to watch unless you're, like, a 55-year-old guy that just loves the old school baseball, which I do. Like, I like to watch it sometimes, but they're not gonna do the bat flips and, barking, from the other dugout. That's just not who they are. So, like, if you want, like, a constant team that's gonna be reliable all year, like, Vanderbilt is your team. Uh, Texas A&M, I think they come in with, like, this underdog mindset. The same thing Jim Schlossnagel done for the last 20 years is, like, paint this picture of, like, to his team, "Hey, we're these underdogs, like, nobody's giving us a chance. We have just big human beings." Like, their whole roster is, like, 6'4", 240, just muscular dudes. Um, they're gonna be a team that it doesn't matter who they're playing. Like, they're just gonna out tough the other team. Like, they did it a little bit last year. They weren't as successful because they were younger, but, like, these guys come in. I mean, they have 2 All-Americans just with Jace Laviette and Braden Montgomery, both in their outfield. So, like, those guys are, cream of the crop guys who can lead a team deep into the postseason. And then you have, like, Tennessee, who plays the game just completely different. Like, they want to have the target on their back. They want to do the flashy stuff, bat flips, this and that, which is cool. I mean, they were the most viral team of 2022. And, they were the best team we've seen in college baseball up to that point. Like, 2022 Volunteers were exciting. They were winning a ton of games, and then they got bounced in the Super Regional at home.
That
But
might have been, not to cut you off, and that might have been the best regular season team ever.
that's what I'm saying. Like, ever. Like, they were just, I mean, I think they were like 40 something and 3 at one point. It was like they didn't lose a game for 2 full months.
Hmm.
So I think we're going to get a little bit back to that. Last year it felt like they got humbled a little bit. Chase Dolander didn't pitch the way that they thought he was going to pitch. But this year, I mean, the rotation's loaded, bullpen stacked, and then I don't know, they have 2 potential All-Americans in their lineup as well. So it's going to be fun. Like, those 3 teams could easily win the SEC, and, like, I wouldn't bat an eye.
So those top six, Ben, feel very established, and that feels, I say that sort of tongue in cheek because it's baseball, right? I'm sure somebody in that top six is going to disappoint, right? And we have no idea right now, but it feels like there's those six. And then maybe there's somewhat of a gap, right? You've got Alabama at number 19, you've got South Carolina at 25, Auburn's right on the cusp. I was kind of surprised they weren't ranked. What are the Mississippi schools going to do in Ole Miss, Mississippi State? Kentucky's another one that was in I think a super regional last year. I know you've got your thoughts on them. Who do you feel like out of that group, the best of the rest of the SEC? I know Georgia, right? And if you want to talk about them, you can.
Yeah.
Who do you see ascending to the top of the league that maybe will be a surprise this year in the SEC?
Yeah, I think for surprise, you have to look at the 2 Mississippi schools that both won national championships and then finished dead last the next year. If I had to pick between Mississippi State and Ole Miss, I think Ole Miss's roster is way more talented. The Mississippi State just, and Chris Lemonis is great. Like, he's done a great job with that program, but, like, his seat is hot, like, way hotter than Bianco's. Like, he could be the first Power Five head coach to get fired because of performance at the baseball level during the season than I can remember. Like, if they come out and start 4 and 9 or whatever, Like he could be gone. Like it's like that serious there. And I really do like what Bianco did with the transfer portal and bringing in guys. So like they could be a sleeper team that don't have the SEC stats with a lot of their roster. But good players that came from junior college or smaller Division ones. So look out for Ole Miss. I don't know if they're going to be hosting a regional, but sure they could get into the tournament. The team that I think has probably the best chance to host a regional, and like it kills me to say it, but I'm buying in big time to this Georgia team. I think with Wes Johnson coming over from LSU, Wes Johnson doesn't get enough credit for what he did with Paul Skeens coming from Air Force. Paul Skeens was a Friday night guy for Air Force, throwing 92 to 94. He has one offseason with Wes Johnson, and he's 98 to 102 and becomes the most dominant pitcher we've ever seen. So Georgia's the last few years, probably since 2019, or sorry, 2020 was Georgia's year to win the national championship. They had 2 first-round picks pitching on the weekends. Those guys both got drafted. They haven't really been the same since. But the Georgia pitching staff has always had the stuff, right? They just haven't been able to execute in the game. So if Wes Johnson can get that pitching staff to execute in the game, like they have the big boppers that can carry an offense and win games that way. So Georgia is probably my favorite to like take a long shot to win the College World Series, or even like there's odds now to just get to the College World Series, and you can get Georgia at like 17 to 1, which is nuts because they're an SEC team. They won't have an SEC team in their regional because you can't have 2 teams from the same conference in a regional. So you got to like their chances to possibly move on there, even if they are a 2 or a 3 seed. And then it's like super regional. Can you win 2 out of 3? Right. So I do like Georgia the best out of that next group, even more than Alabama, even more than Kentucky. I, I I just think that the talent is just more exciting to look at for the Georgia team.
Mhm. And again, you've got them as the 16 seed. Florida State in that regional. So the Seminoles, that would be a fun one. And also the Mercer Bears as we close, Ben. The Mercer Bears, man. What's Mercer looking like this year?
Look, so I had to make a very adult decision on this
Shocker,
past week's.
shocker, by the way, in your hot takes. You said, quote, I'm a believer in Mercer again, end quote.
Yeah, and I am. So I they have a brand new pitching coach and they have a brand new not volunteer, but I guess the third paid assistant coach this year, who both have had just tremendous track records. And so I believe in the coaching staff a lot this year. But I had to make an adult decision on last week's podcast where we were predicting the 30 conference champions, or the conference champions from all 30 conferences. And I said, guys, the last 5 years since we've been doing 11.7, I've picked Mercer to win the regular season. They've never done it. In fact, they blew it twice in the final weekend. Like got swept one time and lost 2 out of 3 one time. And I was like, I have to just pick a team that's not Mercer so it'll finally happen. And so I ended up picking VMI, who I think will be really good this year. If I mean the best offense in the SoCon by far, but they'll lose games 12 to 11 every single day. It's crazy. But listen, I think Mercer is a very, very good team. And they have, I think, 20 guys from the transfer portal. So one way to think about college baseball, the transfer portal works both ways. When you get guys at the mid-major level who, like Mercer had their best player last year transferred to Ole Miss. Well, Mercer got a guy like a pitcher from Mississippi State who was injured but a high recruit. They also got guys from kind of all over. So the elite level D1s, if you're not playing at that level, you drop down to play at a Mercer, you play at a USC Upstate or whatever. So those guys have a big chance to like pitch a lot of innings and have really good results against lesser competition. So I do think the Mercer is gonna. I really do think Mercer is gonna win the SoCon. The SoCon's down this year. I think Mercer's up. But no, they will not be winning a regional. They hopefully will just get to a regional for the first time since probably 2019.
Ben, last
We
thing,
we we
yeah,
could do a whole hour on
a
Mercer if you
whole,
want.
dude, I love college baseball so much I could do it. Last thing, I would say I don't think it's a bold take. The SEC is the best conference in college baseball. You add Texas, you add Oklahoma. Is there any chance anybody catches the SEC anytime soon when you add 2 programs like that on top of what you already have?
No, no shot. Like it's not even close. We'll go back to the like conference spending budgets on baseball. It's like the SEC 50 feet of crap, and then you get like the ACC, Big 12, Pac-12, Big 10. Like it's not even close. And now it's becoming an arms race, and it really has been the last 5 or 6 years. Where once somebody announces an upgrade, like Tennessee's upgrading, $13 million, whatever it is, to their program, it's like, oh, then you'll get, a Florida that's like, all right, we'll add another 10 million to our $35 million stadium. So it's becoming an arms race. It has to be, right? You have to have the best facilities to get the best people out of the transfer portal and the NIL and all that. So no, in our lifetime, I don't think the SEC will ever be topped. Like it might take 200 years before that happens.
Ben Upton of 11.7, the college baseball podcast. Ben, appreciate you taking the time. And my friend, let's soak in the fact that soon, very soon, we'll be sitting here on a Tuesday night watching Florida squander away a 16-14 midweek loss to the South Florida Bulls. And that's when we'll know, you know what, college baseball is officially back. It's not college baseball season until Florida inexplicably blows a late lead in a midweek game. That's just
look out for Stetson, South Florida, Central Florida,
it's the rules.
Jacksonville.
It's the rules.
Like they lose 3 or 4 a year. So yes, we will be looking forward to that. And I want to come back on the show at some point. Please have me back. This is great.
Let's do it. Ben, I appreciate you taking the time, my friend. We'll do it again soon.
All right. Thanks, Chris.